Hi, my name is Rob Bell, and I'm on the Costain team that has been working with the DFT Maritime division to produce an introduction to the maritime sector that can be of value during the induction process on joining the division. This webinar offers an overview to the set of interactive PDF modules now available, with hints on how to use and navigate the content. Developing the content has been a detailed process involving desk research on all the key topics, discovery interviews with the industry experts, and a sharing of graphics and illustrations with numerous organisations. The Costain team has been led by Tim DeBarrow, with maritime specialists such as Jens Nielsen in support. We have worked closely with Phil Grindrod and Carla Duval as our champions, with Alex Potkins and Jamie Gillen from the Freight Network within the department. And thanks to Mike Alcock and James Dowler for their support in developing the materials. This is the maritime story that the modules cover. We have used an interactive PDF format, which I'll explain in a moment. First, a word on content. This simple diagram sums up our purpose: to answer the basic questions. What cargoes are moved by what type of ship, and how are they handled in ports across the world? In answering these questions across the various modules, we're always focusing on the UK. Using this chart as a list of contents, we start with the fact that global trade in goods was around 19 trillion in 2019. An UNCTAD report highlights that about 80% by volume and 70% by value is carried by sea and handled by ports worldwide. The totality of maritime cargoes splits into bulk cargoes, which then splits into liquid and dry bulk. Then general cargo. This is all about break bulk and a relatively new term, neo-bulk. We do not develop neo-bulk in the modules because it does not correspond to DFT data. The one that changed the maritime story most profoundly is next up, containerization. Then the cruise passenger service. And now we'll explore these cargoes in more depth across all of the modules. This is where it all started. Merchants gathering up local merchandise and commodities, sailing off to find new markets and returning with their ships full of what they had found. This module explores the routes of bulk cargoes, explains how they are split into dry, liquid and neo-bulks, a relatively new term that includes cargoes that are pre-packaged, accountable, transported in defined load units and not stored in a container. Each one of the modules opens like this: an overview of the focus and then a series of interactive buttons that will take you straight to the content relating to a specific topic. This module on bulk cargoes works as follows. The first tile explains the market in which bulks operate. For a long time, this sector of maritime has been the barometer of the economy. For example, if aggregates and building materials are being brought in, that will mean that construction is growing. Second tile, we explore what is happening with port operations in this specialized area. And third, we analyze the types of ships involved. And finally, we take the opportunity to look forward. What does the future hold for bulk cargoes? Short sea, motorways of the sea, and coastal trade all describe the movement of cargo and passengers along a coast or between two coastlines without crossing an ocean. Domestic and short sea ro-ro or roll-on, roll-off shipping is what this module is all about. Here's the overview of short sea shipping and then the interactive buttons to take you to specific topics. Short sea is explained with first tile on shipping lines and their strategies, second a focus on vessels and port operations, then a closer look at domestic ro-ro. Finally, we explore what the future holds. Global trade has grown from around 70 million US dollars in 1950 to 19 trillion US dollars in 2019. Much of this growth has been enabled by the innovation of a humble steel box, the shipping container. This module traces the story from Hoboken, New Jersey in 1956, when this humble box set out for Houston and became the building block of globalization. As they say, The rest is history. In this module, we trace the story of containerization, highlighting the growth in ships and of ever more specialized ports. First, we explain the deep sea market, the oceans upon which these increasingly bigger ships sail. Then, we introduce the shipping lines and their controversial alliances. We move on to port operations, and finally, we explore what's in store for the deep sea industry going forward. Then, we have the Lunch and Learn series of webinars. The idea is to explore a topic of the day in more depth. For example, in March 2021, a sandstorm blew up in the Suez Canal, and the boxers on the container ship the Ever Given acted as a sail. The ship crashed into the bank, and this webinar asks and offers answers to the question, was this an accident or a metaphor for globalization and the just-in-time supply chains that crisscross the planet? Other topics are available on smart ports and the significance for the UK, on transport and logistics in the UK's levelling up agenda, and skills. Is this a constraint for the transport and logistics sector going forward? Last but not least, we've developed a glossary of terms. With a strong focus on maritime, we have widened the scope to include key terms in this increasingly multimodal world of GVCs and supply chains. There's a strong lexicon of terms with definitions, diagrams of all port operations, profiles of shipping types, and signposts to key data sources. Here's a thought. This glossary could be added to your desktop and be on hand when you don't know your TEU from your FOB. That's it. An overview of the modules within the DFT's Knowledge and Information Management approach. One last thing. Knowledge and Information Management is where we capture, classify, and archive information. This can be a dry subject, and with digital resources improving content access all the time, it's tough to keep knowledge fresh. We need to find a way to make sure that knowledge and information management is knowledge in action, a socialization of know-how, a sharing of assets, and the creation of a learning community. We needed a framework to ensure that this whole process of induction does not just become a link to an archive rarely opened. The word on the screen, WHANAU, pronounced Whānau, is a Maori language word for an extended family, a multi-generational community of elders and new arrivals. The word itself has other meanings, as a verb meaning to be born or give birth to new ideas. In a knowledge and information context, Whānau describes a group of individuals and a team that share a common purpose. As a metaphor, Whānau promotes a deeper understanding of the roots, heritage, and futures of the maritime industry, which can strengthen the bonds between the DFT and the wider industry as a whole. This is knowledge in action. Whānau can be the framework for all content that supports policy making with the knowledge needed. Enough said. Thank you for listening to this tour of the modules and glossary designed to make maritime more familiar and to ensure that you know where to look when the fog comes down on a maritime topic.